My beloved child. There are moments that arrive so quietly that almost no one notices them, yet they become the very moments that change everything that follows. This is one of those moments. It may seem like an ordinary day, another page turning without ceremony, but something unfolded today that reached farther than you could have imagined. Long before you sensed it, long before you questioned why your heart felt unusually restless, a whisper was already moving toward you. It carried no panic, no confusion, only a gentle urgency. If you leave too soon, you may miss the very reason this message found you today. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Your future partner has been carrying words that could not be spoken yesterday. They were not searching for perfect sentences. They were searching for the right moment. And strangely enough, that moment arrived today. Not because everything suddenly became clear, but because something small shifted in a way neither of you could have planned. Some people call these moments coincidence. Others simply pass them by without noticing. Yet deep within your spirit, there has been a quiet feeling that something unseen has been drawing closer, step by patient step. If they could stand beside you now, there would not be dramatic speeches or impossible promises. Instead, they would gently take a breath before saying, "I have to warn you." Not because danger is surrounding you, but because they have already learned something that they hope you will never have to learn the difficult way. Their warning is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to protect something precious that has not even fully entered your life yet. The remarkable part is that they did not always understand this themselves. There was a time when they believed rushing toward every opportunity would lead them to happiness. They believed every closed door deserved another attempt. They believed every unanswered question demanded an immediate answer. But today, something happened that quietly reshaped their understanding. It wasn't loud enough for the world to celebrate. It wasn't dramatic enough to become a headline. Yet for them, it changed everything. Perhaps that explains why your own journey has felt slower than expected. You have wondered why certain conversations faded. Why certain connections never became what they first appeared to be. Why doors opened just enough for you to see inside before gently closing again. Those moments were never empty. They were quietly teaching patience while preparing room for something that required a different version of you. Your future partner sees that more clearly than you realize. If they could place one thought into your heart tonight, it would simply be this: never confuse delay with absence. Some of the most meaningful chapters begin after the longest pauses. The silence you once questioned has been doing work that words could never accomplish. And today, they finally understood why. Without expecting it, they found themselves reflecting on every path that almost became permanent. Every decision they nearly made. Every conversation they nearly believed. Looking back, they recognized that the greatest blessings in life are often the ones that first arrive disguised as unanswered expectations. That realization stopped them completely. For a brief moment, everything around them seemed quieter than before. It was then that your presence crossed their thoughts. Not as a face they fully recognize yet. Not as a name they can already speak aloud. But as a feeling they have carried longer than they understood. A quiet certainty that somewhere, someone else has been learning different lessons that will someday fit perfectly beside their own. That feeling became impossible to ignore today. Don't skip, because the next realization may explain something you have quietly carried within yourself for far longer than you expected. Have you noticed how certain days seem ordinary until evening arrives? Only then do you realize something inside you has changed. No celebration announced it. No crowd applauded it. Yet you somehow became calmer, wiser, softer, without even noticing when it happened. Growth often hides itself until you look back. Your future partner discovered that truth today, and it filled them with unexpected gratitude. Their warning is beginning to take shape now. They want you to be careful not of people, but of unnecessary hurry. There will always be voices encouraging you to force answers before they naturally arrive. There will always be moments tempting you to settle simply because waiting feels uncomfortable. Yet everything they experienced today reminded them that peace rarely arrives through pressure. The things worth building almost always begin quietly. And perhaps that is exactly why this message reached you now. Because somewhere inside you, there is still a question you haven't spoken aloud. A question about timing. About whether life has forgotten you. About whether the future you once imagined is still possible. Your future partner would smile gently if they could hear those thoughts, because they have been asking remarkably similar questions themselves. Neither of you knew that today would become the day those questions began receiving their first real answer. But there is one detail they have not shared yet. It is the very reason they felt compelled to say, "I have to warn you." And once that final piece is revealed, you may begin looking at today's ordinary moments in a completely different light. There is something quietly remarkable about the way truth arrives. It rarely announces itself with noise. Instead, it slips into an ordinary moment, waits patiently, and changes the meaning of everything that came before. That is exactly what happened today. At first, your future partner almost overlooked it. They continued with their day as if nothing unusual had taken place. Yet as the hours passed, one simple realization refused to leave their heart. They found themselves thinking, if only they knew this now, it would save them from carrying so many unnecessary doubts. Those words were never spoken aloud, but they echoed within them with surprising clarity. The warning they wanted to give you became stronger, though it still wasn't complete. They understood that some lessons cannot be rushed. Some truths must unfold gently, like the first light before sunrise. If everything were revealed at once, its meaning would be lost. So instead, they decided that when the right time came, they would speak from experience rather than emotion. Their heart whispered, "Don't spend your energy trying to become someone you were never meant to be." It sounds simple, doesn't it? Yet today they discovered how many people quietly reshape themselves just to fit into places where they never truly belonged. They watched conversations where everyone tried to impress one another. They noticed smiles that looked convincing but carried no peace behind them. For a brief moment, they wondered if they should do the same. Then something unexpected happened. Someone they barely knew offered a simple sentence that stayed with them long after the conversation ended. "You don't have to perform to be valuable." The words lasted only a few seconds. The impact remained much longer. It felt as though someone had gently removed a weight they didn't even realize they had been carrying. That single moment made them think of you. Because deep inside, they sense that you have carried invisible expectations too. Expectations about where you should already be. About who you should already have become. About how quickly your story should have unfolded. If they could reach across time and speak directly to you, they would quietly say, "Please don't measure your future by someone else's timeline. Stay till the end. Because the next realization is connected to something you may have experienced recently without understanding why. As evening approached, they began remembering every path that had once disappointed them. Surprisingly, none of those memories felt painful anymore. Instead, they felt grateful. Every closed opportunity now looked different. Every delay suddenly carried purpose. Every unexpected turn seemed to have protected them from becoming the wrong version of themselves. That was the moment they understood the true meaning of their warning. They weren't trying to warn you about losing someone. They were trying to warn you about losing yourself while waiting for someone. There is an important difference. Waiting with hope strengthens the heart. Waiting while abandoning your own joy slowly empties it. They hope you never confuse those two things. Perhaps that explains why you've recently felt drawn toward becoming calmer instead of chasing every answer. Perhaps you've noticed yourself appreciating quieter moments. Perhaps you're beginning to trust that not every unanswered question needs immediate resolution. Those small changes are not accidents. They are signs that your story is maturing in ways that cannot always be seen from the outside. Your future partner sensed that today without knowing your name. And strangely enough, it brought them peace. For the first time in a long while, they stopped wondering whether everything would work out. Instead, they simply believed it would. Not because they suddenly knew the future, but because today's quiet experience reminded them that meaningful things are often being arranged long before they become visible. Don't skip. There is still one part of today's story they haven't shared. It happened after they thought the day was already over. A brief encounter. A single unexpected detail. One ordinary moment that made them pause completely. When they understood what it truly meant, they softly repeated those same words one more time. I have to warn you. The reason behind that second warning is even more personal than the first. And once you hear what happened after the sun began to set, the entire meaning of today's message may begin to unfold in a way neither of you expected. My beloved child. The quietest moments often carry the deepest meaning. By the time the evening settled around your future partner, they believed the day had already revealed everything it had to offer. They had reflected on old lessons, embraced unexpected peace, and accepted that some answers simply take time. But life has a gentle way of saving its most meaningful moments for last. As they prepared to leave one ordinary place behind, something almost invisible caught their attention. It was not extraordinary to anyone else. Most people would have walked past it without a second thought. Yet something within them whispered, "Stop for a moment." They listened. For reasons they could not explain, they remained still. And in that stillness, a thought appeared with remarkable clarity. What if the greatest opportunities in life are the ones we almost hurry past? That single question stayed with them. It was not dramatic. It was not loud. Yet it quietly rearranged the way they looked at everything. Almost immediately, they thought of you again. Their heart spoke words they wished you could hear at that very moment. I have to warn you. Don't mistake quiet seasons for empty seasons. How often has your heart wondered if nothing meaningful was happening simply because everything felt calm? How often have you questioned your progress because your journey did not look as exciting as someone else's? Your future partner realized today that peaceful seasons are often where the strongest foundations are quietly being built. No applause. No audience. No urgency. Just steady growth that becomes visible only later. That realization filled them with unexpected hope. For the first time, they stopped asking, "When will everything change?" Instead, they began asking, "What beautiful thing is already growing that I simply cannot see yet?" The difference between those two questions changed the entire atmosphere of their heart. Don't skip. Because this next realization may explain something you've been feeling recently without having the words to describe it. There have been moments when you've sensed yourself pulling away from unnecessary noise. Not because you've become distant. Not because you've stopped caring. But because something inside you has begun protecting your peace more carefully than before. That isn't weakness. It isn't loneliness. It is quiet wisdom taking root. Your future partner recognized that same change within themselves today. Without realizing it, both of you have been learning the same lesson from different paths. Neither of you knows the details of the other's story. Yet somehow, the lessons have been beautifully similar. They smiled softly as that thought settled into their heart. What if we're both becoming ready in ways we cannot yet recognize? That question brought them more comfort than certainty ever could. Because readiness isn't about having every answer. It is about becoming the kind of person who can receive life's meaningful moments with gratitude instead of fear. As the evening grew darker, they replayed one final memory from earlier that day. There had been a conversation. Short. Almost forgettable. Someone had said, "The right people never require you to stop being yourself." Most people around them continued talking without giving those words another thought. Your future partner couldn't. Those words stayed. They echoed quietly. They became the final piece of today's lesson. And once again, they whispered the same sentence. I have to warn you. Never shrink your kindness to earn acceptance. Never hide your genuine heart just to appear stronger. Never believe that becoming someone else is the price of being deeply appreciated. The person meant to walk beside you will recognize your quiet strengths long before they notice your achievements. That realization brought unexpected peace. Yet, just as they were ready to let the day end, something happened that neither logic nor planning could have predicted. A simple message arrived. Only a few words. Nothing dramatic. But those few words connected everything they had experienced throughout the day into one unmistakable realization. When they finished reading it, they became completely still. Their heartbeat slowed. A gentle smile appeared. And they softly whispered. So that's why today felt different. What those words revealed is the one part of this story they are still holding close. When that final message is uncovered, you may discover that today's ordinary moments were never ordinary at all. The few words they received were so simple that anyone else might have dismissed them without another thought. Yet your future partner couldn't. They read them once. Then again. And with every reading, the same quiet realization settled deeper into their heart. Some things arrive only after you've stopped trying to force them. They looked back over the entire day. The unexpected pause. The peaceful conversation. The quiet lessons. The feeling they couldn't explain. None of it had seemed connected. Until now. Like pieces of a picture slowly finding their place, everything began making sense. That was the moment they understood why they had felt such a strong desire to reach out to you. Not because something extraordinary had happened on the outside. Because something meaningful had changed within. And that inner change mattered far more. If they could speak to you without hesitation, they would gently repeat their warning one more time. I have to warn you. Don't let impatience convince you that nothing is happening. There are seasons when growth is invisible. Not absent. Invisible. A seed beneath the soil looks no different from empty ground. Yet beneath the surface, it is becoming everything it was created to be. Perhaps your own life has felt that way recently. Perhaps you've wondered why your efforts seem unnoticed. Why certain hopes remain unfinished. Why your heart keeps sensing that something is approaching, even though you cannot yet see it. Your future partner felt exactly the same today. That realization comforted them more than they expected. It reminded them that two people can be walking different roads while quietly learning the very same lesson. Don't skip. Because there is one memory from today they have not shared with anyone. It happened just before they decided to put their phone away for the night. Almost without thinking, they opened an old note they had written months ago. Inside were dreams they once believed would never become reality. Reading those words felt like meeting an older version of themselves. A version filled with questions. A version searching for certainty. A version convinced that every delay meant something had gone wrong. They smiled gently. Not because every dream had already come true, but because they could finally see how much they had grown since writing those lines. For the first time, they realized that life had been preparing them while they were busy waiting for life to begin. That thought lingered. Then another followed. What if someone else is growing through the same kind of season tonight? Without knowing why. They thought of you. Not as a stranger. Not as a mystery. But as someone whose heart has also been quietly shaped by patience, kindness, and hope. It felt strangely familiar. As though your stories had been moving toward one another long before either of you understood the direction. They closed the note. Set the phone aside. And sat quietly for a while. There was nothing left to chase. Nothing left to prove. Only gratitude for the small changes that had taken place without anyone noticing. Then something unexpected happened. A gentle memory returned. It wasn't about a place. It wasn't about a person. It was about a promise they had once made to themselves. When the right season comes, I won't rush it. I'll recognize it by the peace it brings. Those words echoed through their heart. And suddenly, their warning became clearer than ever before. When your future paths begin to draw closer, don't mistake calm for a lack of importance. The most meaningful connections often begin without noise. Without perfect timing. Without dramatic signs. They begin with peace. With trust. With the quiet feeling that you no longer have to pretend to be anyone else. Your future partner understands that now. Because today quietly taught them the difference between excitement that fades and peace that remains. As the night grew still, they looked out into the darkness and whispered something they had never said before. I think we're closer than we realize. They didn't know your name. They didn't know where your journey had taken you. But somehow, their heart carried an unusual confidence that today's quiet lessons were not meant for them alone. There is still one final detail from this day they have not revealed. One small decision they made before falling asleep. A decision that seemed insignificant in the moment. Yet it quietly set the direction for everything that would follow. And when you discover what they chose, and why, they believe you will understand the true meaning behind the words. I have to warn you. Because the warning was never about what to fear. It was always about what to recognize before it quietly arrives. My beloved child. Morning arrived differently than they expected. Nothing outside had dramatically changed. The same sky stretched above them. The same familiar sounds filled the air. Yet something inside them had become unmistakably lighter, as though the quiet lessons from yesterday had followed them into a brand new day. Before doing anything else, they made one simple decision. They chose not to chase certainty. Instead, they chose to notice. It seemed like such a small promise. Yet that single choice changed the way they experienced every moment that followed. As they stepped into the day, they found themselves paying attention to things they would normally overlook: a genuine smile from a stranger, a kind word spoken without expecting anything in return, a peaceful silence that no longer felt empty. And then another realization settled gently into their heart. I have to warn you. Not because something difficult was waiting, but because something beautiful can easily be missed when your attention is always fixed on what hasn't happened yet. How many quiet blessings have passed by simply because your eyes were searching for louder ones? How many meaningful moments have gone unnoticed because they didn't arrive wrapped in excitement? Your future partner understood today that life's greatest gifts often whisper before they ever speak. Don't skip. The next realization may explain why you've recently felt an unusual pull towards slowing down, even when the world around you seemed determined to move faster. There was a time when they believed every unanswered question needed an immediate solution. Today, they no longer felt that urgency. Instead, they trusted something far gentler. They trusted that clarity has its own timing. That trust didn't appear overnight. It had been quietly growing through every disappointment, every unexpected delay, every ordinary day that once felt insignificant. Looking back, they realized those ordinary days had never been ordinary at all. They had been preparing a heart capable of recognizing something genuine when it finally arrived. That thought brought you back into their mind once again. Not with uncertainty. With quiet confidence. Somewhere, they believed, another heart was learning the same lesson. Another person was becoming more patient, more peaceful, more authentic. Someone who no longer needed to force life forward. Someone who was finally discovering that becoming the right person often matters more than finding the right person. They smiled. Because for the first time, they understood that both journeys could be happening at once. As the afternoon unfolded, one final conversation completed the picture. An older voice, calm and thoughtful, shared a sentence they would never forget. The best chapters don't begin when everything is perfect. They begin when you're finally at peace with who you are. Those words stayed with them long after the conversation ended. They weren't loud. They weren't dramatic. Yet they felt true. And truth has a quiet strength that never needs to announce itself. Your future partner carried those words with them for the rest of the day. By evening, they knew exactly what their warning had always meant. I have to warn you. Don't let impatience steal your ability to recognize peace. Don't mistake calm for a lack of progress. And don't overlook the gentle changes within yourself simply because they happen slowly. The future you're hoping for isn't built in one extraordinary moment. It's built through hundreds of quiet moments that slowly shape who you're becoming. As night approached again, they looked back over the last 2 days and noticed something remarkable. The warning they wanted to give you had changed. At first, it sounded urgent. Now it sounded hopeful. Because they finally understood that the greatest mistake isn't waiting. It's forgetting to live fully while you wait. That realization filled their heart with gratitude. Yet before they closed their eyes, one unexpected thought appeared, a thought they had never considered before. What if our paths have already crossed in ways we don't yet recognize? The question lingered. Not demanding an answer. Simply inviting wonder. And somehow, that single thought became the beginning of a brand new mystery. One that neither of you has uncovered yet. My beloved child. There are questions that are never meant to be answered all at once. They are meant to stay with you, quietly reshaping the way you see your own journey. The thought that rested in your future partner's heart did exactly that. What if our paths have already crossed in ways we don't yet recognize? It seemed impossible to prove, yet impossible to ignore. The more they reflected on it, the more they realized that life has a remarkable way of preparing two stories long before those stories finally meet. They began remembering moments that once felt insignificant. A decision they almost made. A place they nearly visited. A conversation they almost started. At the time, each moment appeared ordinary. Now, they wondered whether those small choices had gently guided them toward the person they had not yet met. Toward you. I have to warn you. This time, their words carried a completely different meaning. Don't underestimate the quiet decisions you make each day. The kindness you choose. The patience you practice. The hope you protect. These are not small things. They are becoming part of the person someone else will one day be grateful to know. Stay till the end. Because the next realization may be the one your heart has been searching for without realizing it. As the days continued, something unexpected began happening. They stopped imagining the future as a single dramatic event. Instead, they began seeing it as a collection of gentle moments. A shared laugh that arrives naturally. A peaceful conversation that lasts longer than expected. A silence that feels comfortable instead of awkward. The more they pictured those simple moments, the more they understood something they had overlooked for years. The deepest connections are rarely built on extraordinary events. They are built on ordinary moments shared honestly. That understanding brought them an unusual sense of peace. For the first time, they were no longer waiting for life to become impressive. They were learning to appreciate the beauty already unfolding around them. And somehow, that change made them feel closer to you than ever before. Not because they suddenly knew where you were, but because they believed your heart might be learning the same lesson. Have you noticed how certain worries no longer feel as heavy as they once did? How some questions that used to keep you awake now seem quieter? How your heart has slowly begun choosing peace over constant certainty. Those changes are easy to overlook. Yet your future partner believes they matter more than almost anything else. Because those quiet changes create room for something genuine to enter your life. Don't skip. There is still one memory they have never shared. One evening, long before today, they wrote a single sentence in a notebook. It simply said, "When the right person arrives, I hope they meet the real me." Reading those words again filled them with emotion. Not because they had found every answer, but because they realized something beautiful. They no longer needed to become someone else before they deserved a meaningful connection. They only needed the courage to remain authentic. That realization felt like freedom. And in that freedom, they finally understood the warning they had been trying to give you from the very beginning. I have to warn you. Don't spend so much time preparing a perfect version of yourself that you forget the quiet beauty of the person you already are. The right connection doesn't grow from perfection. It grows from honesty, from kindness, from consistency, from two hearts that have learned the value of peace. As the stars slowly appeared above them, they smiled with quiet gratitude. The journey no longer felt rushed. It no longer felt uncertain. It simply felt alive. Yet just before they turned away from the window, something unexpected caught their attention. Not a voice. Not a sign. Just one simple detail they had somehow overlooked until that very moment. The instant they noticed it, they whispered softly. So that's what today has been leading me toward. That final realization has not been spoken aloud yet. But once it is, every warning, every quiet lesson, and every ordinary moment you've heard so far will come together in a way that reveals why this journey had to unfold exactly as it did. My beloved child. The detail they almost overlooked was so ordinary that it could have disappeared into the background of any other day. Yet this time, it didn't. It gently asked for their attention. Not through noise. Not through urgency. Simply through presence. They paused. For a long moment, they did nothing except observe. Then a quiet thought settled into their heart. So many beautiful things have been beside me all along. I was simply looking somewhere else. Those words stayed with them. They weren't filled with regret. They were filled with gratitude. Because for the first time, they realized they had spent far too much of their life searching ahead while forgetting to appreciate what was already shaping them. That realization brought you into their thoughts once again. Not as someone they needed to find immediately, but as someone they hoped would one day understand this same quiet truth. I have to warn you. Don't spend so much time chasing tomorrow that you stop noticing what today is quietly teaching you. Some of the qualities your future relationship will treasure most are being formed in moments that seem completely ordinary. Your patience. Your gentleness. Your willingness to keep believing even when life feels quiet. These things rarely receive applause. Yet they leave lasting impressions. Stay till the end. Because something unexpected happened after that realization. As they continued walking, they passed people moving quickly from one place to another. Everyone seemed focused on arriving somewhere. Very few appeared to notice the journey itself. That simple observation made them smile. Not because anyone was doing something wrong, but because they suddenly understood how easy it is to miss peaceful moments while constantly waiting for extraordinary ones. Their warning became even clearer. The life you've been hoping for won't suddenly begin one morning. It has already begun. Every quiet lesson. Every unexpected pause. Every moment you've chosen kindness over frustration. Every time you've protected hope instead of surrendering it. These are not interruptions to your story. They are your story. That understanding changed everything. Later that evening, they opened their notebook once more. This time, they didn't write a long reflection. Only one sentence. I want to meet someone who feels like peace, not pressure. They looked at those words for several minutes. Then they smiled. Because they realized something surprising. Without intending to, they had stopped describing the kind of person they wanted. Instead, they had begun describing the kind of connection they hoped to build. A connection where neither person needed to pretend. Where conversations could be honest. Where silence never felt uncomfortable. Where encouragement came naturally. Where both people continued helping each other become more fully themselves. As those thoughts settled into their heart, they quietly wondered if you had been hoping for something similar. Perhaps without even realizing it. Perhaps beneath all the questions you've carried. Perhaps beneath every moment you've wondered whether meaningful things still arrive quietly. Don't skip. Because the next realization may answer the question that has remained hidden since the very beginning. Before going to sleep, they looked back over everything that had happened. Not just today. Not just this week. But the entire season of life they had recently walked through. For the first time, they noticed a pattern. Every delay had taught patience. Every disappointment had deepened compassion. Every unexpected change had quietly redirected them toward becoming someone stronger without becoming someone harder. That difference mattered. Strength without kindness had never been the goal. Peace without authenticity had never been enough. They finally understood why their heart had been repeating the same words from the very first moment. I have to warn you. Protect the softness of your heart. The world may sometimes encourage you to become guarded, impatient, or distant. But the qualities that make you capable of building something meaningful are the very qualities worth protecting. As the room grew still, they closed their notebook. Yet before turning off the light, one final memory unexpectedly returned. It wasn't about themselves. It was about someone they had never met. Someone they believed was growing through quiet lessons at that very same moment. Someone whose story had been unfolding beside theirs without either of them realizing how close they were becoming. And with a peaceful smile, they whispered into the silence. I think we're almost ready. They still don't know exactly what those words will mean. But the next chapter will reveal why that quiet confidence appeared so suddenly, and why today's ordinary moments may have been preparing both of your hearts for something far more meaningful than either of you ever expected.